In the heart of Cornwall, there's a castle of unique status. Tintagel conjures more imagery in our mind than any other castle in England. Tintagel is a well-protected site. The name even means the fort of the constriction. But by Richard, Earl of Cornwall's day, any strategic significance was long gone. This land had no military value whatsoever. There hadn't been any fortifications here since the Iron Age. The association with Arthur was to give it a new lease of life. These ruins on a rocky headland exert a power far beyond their physical elements. For a character far more fiction than fact, Arthur holds an extraordinary fascination for us. It was the cleric Geoffrey of Monmouth who had identified Tintagel as the birthplace of Arthur in the 1100s. A French scholar later added the story of the Round Table, round so that no knight could enjoy higher status than any other. And later writers still added the story of the Holy Grail. Over the centuries, authors and artists would return again and again to the legend, adding their own ideas. It's no wonder that dealing with Arthur has been described as dealing with the history of the story of the legend. The man behind Tintagel Castle had been made Earl of Cornwall by his brother, Henry III. He came from the same Anglo-Norman elite, but he needed to be accepted by the Cornish to make it easier to assert his authority and, more importantly, collect his taxes. It seems that Richard, Earl of Cornwall, was so eager to link his fortunes with those of Arthur that he decided to build his very own Camelot. Richard decided that this was the exact spot where Arthur was conceived. Don't ask me how he knew. And so the castle had to be built here, just by the cliff's edge. The ruins tell the story of its construction elegantly. Richard built the outer walls first and then filled in this central area to make it level. The only problem was that the walls started to fall towards the sea. If the castle was to be prevented from falling into the sea, something needed to be done. Hence these buttresses. They're not tied into the walls, which suggests that they're a later addition. And how did he build his walls? Well, these holes give the answer. They're known as putlogs, because if you put a log in them, you could then put a plank across as well and create a platform. And then bit by bit, the walls would rise. But these are thin walls built from the local slate. Looking at them convinces me that this castle had no military value whatsoever. Tintagel's not a fortress, but a purely symbolic edifice. Looking at these evocative ruins, it seems little more than an expensive folly. And yet Tintagel seems to have served its purpose. The tin in Cornwall made Richard wealthy, and he used that money to enhance his status at every opportunity. He even bribed some German barons to elect him King of the Romans, the first and only time that an Englishman has held that title.